I'm over here. Back here. Right back here. This is my privacy screen, made from natural organic materials, very inexpensive to put together. Once again, repurposing, recycling, doing all that kind of stuff. I call this project Stand Your Ground. And we are going to make this together. Now, I've got 3 sections that I accordion together with hinges so that you can actually cover a fairly large area with this. You can make it as big or as small as you want. You can use it as fencing. It doesn't just have to be a screen. And you can bring it indoors because it's a really nice organic touch for an indoor atmosphere as well. Now, I used cedar planks, cedar boards. You might want to use pressure treated if you don't want to bear the expense of natural cedar. If you're using this exclusively inside, you can use just regular spruce 2x4s, which will bring your cost down dramatically. So what you're going to do is start out with your 2x4s. If it's going outside, I strongly suggest cedar or pressure treated wood. Now, if you're working with pressure treated wood, always, always, always wear a respirator and eye protection and ear protection, actually, if you're working with loud or repetitive equipment. But you really need a respirator when working with pressure treated wood because of the chemicals that they use to make this wood all weather. And as you're drilling and cutting and working with it, the fumes emitted from it are not good for your body. So make sure that you're wearing a respirator if you're doing pressure treated wood. All right, we're going to start with our 2x4s. And you can make this any size that you want. I chose to make it roughly 4x5. And you're going to start by creating all the holes that you can drop your timbers through. Now, I used willow. You can harvest twigs from your yard. You can use bamboo. You can use just about any material that you want to drop down in here. It's just a matter of preference. So you're going to start by cutting your holes. And to do that, you are going to use a 2-inch hole saw, which is this guy right here. These are relatively inexpensive drill bits. You can get them at any hardware store. And the piece that's inside is called a mandrel. So basically what you do is you take this hole saw part off and reuse the mandrel for whatever size you need. So once you make the investment in one of these, all you need to do is replace the diameter of the hole saw. That's it. So you can attach this to any drill bit, or if you're lucky enough to have a drill press, that's even better because you're going to be making a lot of these holes. So basically what you're going to do is make holes in the top rung and in the bottom rung. And that way you can channel your reeds through the top, and they've got a little spot to stay in the bottom as well. Now, in order to prevent your reeds from falling right through, the bottom strip of wood is solid. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your hole cut piece on top of your solid piece. Now, I have actually got a few pieces ready here to show you. And this is the piece, the top rung. And this is with the holes cut out, and this is basically what it looks like. What you're going to do is decide how many of these you want. You can make them as close or as far apart as needed. Just bear in mind that the more holes you put in, the more you compensate the strength of the wood. So have at least an inch space between all your circles. Measure them out, make sure they're evenly spaced out. Definitely draw a central line and draw all your circles off of that. So once you've got this drilled, what you're going to do is you're going to want to match it up to the bottom piece so that all your holes are exactly the same, so that when you drop them through, they're all perfectly lined up. Now, as I said, if this was your bottom piece and you were transporting this or moving it around, your reeds would fall right through. So what we're going to want to do is we are going to want to attach it to a solid piece of wood, the exact same length, screw it together, and that way your reeds won't fall through. Now, all you're going to do to put these two pieces together is use a little bit of exterior glue, and you're using exterior glue so that it's good for the elements if you decide to place this on your deck or your patio or your balcony for a bit of privacy, or use it as a fence. So what you're going to do is make sure that you glue in between your holes, of course, but you're also going to screw this piece together. You are going to attach it from the bottom with 2.5-inch screws. Exterior grade, because you don't want them to rust on you. So to make sure that when you're drilling from the bottom into the top and you don't go through one of these holes, what you're going to do is line them up together like this, and you're going to make marks where your screws can come through, because you want to make sure that you're on the solid part. And once you've got that all marked up, then you can just flip it over, add your glue, and then screw it in from the bottom with 2.5-inch long screws. And that's basically how you make the bottom. Now, I noticed when I was making this project and I cut out all my holes with my hole saw that I had a ton of these left over, which was my center from each one of these holes. Now you notice that there's a hole dead center in here because the hole saw actually has a bit in the front, and that's what penetrates the wood and then holds it in place as you're drilling these. So you've got a little hole in the middle of these, and you've got a whole bunch of them left over. And you can't throw them out because we're all about repurposing and recycling. So what I chose to do is kind of beef up the bottom and give it a little extra sturdiness so that it's thicker on the bottom and it can hold the weight of the top unit with a little bit of swaying from the wind and all that kind of stuff. And since it already has a hole in the middle, it was an absolute natural just to drop one of my screws in and attach it to the bottom. Now I used a little bit of glue on this as well, and all I did was I screwed it all along the bottom. I wasn't really crazy about the way the screw heads looked, so I went and got some upholstery studs, which look just like this. These you can get at any upholstery supply outlet place or hardware store. They come in all kinds of sizes, and all I did was I just offset the screw slightly and tapped this in with a hammer, and that was all there was to it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting the structure together. Now I've added a little bit of exterior grade glue on here. I've pre-drilled my holes. So now all I'm going to do is use my 2.5-inch screws and put this unit together. Snug these up really good. Once again, if you're not happy with the way the screw heads look when you're all done your masterpiece, you can cover them with studs. And that's all there is to it. So now that we've got our one side on, I'm just going to flip this over so that we can attach our bottom unit, which goes on the exact same way. And all I'm going to do is, once again, put a little bit of glue on here, which I've already done. I've pre-drilled my holes, and I'm just going to put this together. Now, sometimes these projects are a little easier to do with two sets of hands, and this might be one of those moments. So just bear with me while I line this up. There you go. So basically, all you have to do at this point is attach the other side, and we're on to the next step. Now, if you decide to put these little circles, the wood cutouts on the bottom, the only drawback to adding these is that the screen isn't going to be completely foldable so that you can actually fold the screen to as thin as it can be, because these are going to be pushing the bottoms out. So just bear that in mind for storage. If you're thinking of bringing this in over the winter, that you're not going to have the option of folding it together really, really tightly. What you're going to have to do is actually take it apart. Now, once all your pieces are built and you've decided how many units you want to go with, the next step and last step is to put it all together. Now, we want to have some flexibility with this, so we're going to hinge all the pieces together with 2.5-inch pin hinges. And they're just these little guys right here, found at any hardware store. Definitely pre-drill all your holes, because you're going to be using little tiny screws to hold this together, and you want to make sure that you don't split your wood. So I've pre-drilled everything, so I'm just putting these units together, 2 hinges on each section. Now what you want to do is, if you have more than 2 sections together, you're going to have your hinges on the front on this section, and as you work over to the next section, the hinges will be on the back. And the reason that you want to do that is flip-flop them from side to side is because you want to create an accordion feel. You don't want it just going around in circles. So make sure you flip the sides that your hinges are on so that you can get that accordion look. And basically that's all there is to it. Last step will be to drop your reeds in here. I used willow, but feel free to use whatever you can forage for in your yard. Come on, let's take this outside and see what it looks like on the patio. This is bar none my favorite time of day. Apart from noisy neighbors that like to use chainsaws early in the day, I love coming out here for my coffee, reading the paper, catching up on a few things. Now, my neighbors on the other side of me are a little bit close, so I like to have a bit of privacy when I'm out here on my balcony, and this screen is absolutely perfect. It's a friendly neighbor screen, because while it blocks out most of your neighbors, it still lets a little bit through, so you're not telling them, don't look at me while I'm on my deck or patio. It's a perfect solution for small spaces or balconies or mornings when you just want to read the paper and have your coffee.